Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are conquesting yourselves, everything around you to become the highest value male you can become. This is a great day, as we always say, and I thank you guys for all your comments, your feedback, your donations, everything that helps the cause in trying to get more and more people over that 1% and into that 1% category and over 2%, 3%, that we become more and more aware of the importance of things like retention. But not only retention, but that's a foundation. We're really talking about self-control. Celibacy, brahmacharya, all those things are important to be able to focus on making the person the best person possible. Today is a great day as well, because today is the day that Vigor Warriors 2 turned 63. So it's been great to be with you guys in the last few years and hopefully a lot more years to come. And it's great that I have been blessed enough to be able to understand all this now after all these years and enjoying myself as I can. I feel like I'm 30 years old, and I'm not sure what I look like half the time, but I feel like that I'm 30, and it's wonderful. So let's do some shout outs before we do our topic. Our topic's going to be on transmutation today, a topic you guys have been asking about. So Calvin Desouza, thank you, my friend. Wayne Moore, edging is a problem. Edging is a problem. It goes back to my recommendation. Always go to monk mode. Stop thinking about women. Do not do any sort of getting close to this situation. Try to stay away from. You're going to have times where you're tempted. Find strategies. We'll talk about that in a second to be able to actually overcome that. Jim Kafran, thank you. Verni, thank you. God's Gladiators. Danish with Sebastian. Jon the Dawn 2, thank you. Yaz. Perfect World Club 2, thank you, my friend. Raphael 10654, 3 of them, thank you, my friend Raphael. David B's, thank you. Look like I'm late 40s. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Like I said, I feel like I'm in the 30s and 40s, and that's good. Legokingiscool, thank you, my friend. Glory be to God. Sleazy Breeze, thank you. ZS, ECBSB, thank you, guys. Quintus Burks, thank you. The viciousness, I like that. Very nice, thank you. Perfect World Club again, 2 more. Perfect World Club, 2 more. Thank you, guys. Thank you, my friend. T. Marcel Horton, thank you. RSVP. Lucio Plaxio, I believe. Marlon Jackson, Mr. Warrior, yes. Oleg, thank you. J. Mitchell, Mob FX, Bretty D, Bretty D, and Cameron Vaughn, thank you guys for your comments. All right, so at the 2-minute and 50-second mark, let's talk about the idea, and another shout out goes to Knowledge Harvestor and Jackobson. Thank you guys for this, submitting this topic and talking about this. But let's go back and talk about, I'm just sitting for a second on this on, but let's talk about the whole idea of transmutation. What we're not really focusing on here is how a person can use this energy. Now, let's take a step back a little bit. Let's take a step back and look at what we're talking about here. Transmutation is the thought and idea that we're going to transmute something. This goes back to the early days of retention. We go back to the alchemists, the medieval alchemists of the day. They were transmuting things. Now, they did a lot of things more with chemicals when it came to gold and silver and things like that. But also in the tablet, I think it's the tablet. I'm messing this up. But the tablet, there's something that talks about the fact that they're transmuting energy. And so we talk about everything as energy, right? Esmo tablet, I'll get this right eventually. But the tablet says, the idea it says is that you're taking it and you're basically going ahead and transmuting energy and transferring it. You're making it one thing and using it for something else. And that's the whole idea that we have. We have energy all around us. Everything is energy, right? And so as the energy is around us, energy cannot be destroyed or created. That's the whole law, fountain of the laws of Newton, right? And I do teach some physics to high schoolers during the day, during the year, and I've taught chemistry as well, and a math background along with that. So, you know, there's the foundation talking about the idea that you cannot destroy or create energy. So what happens to energy? Well, energy, which we're all made of, everything in this world is energy, The trees, I'm walking out the trees, the, the cars, all that's energy. So what happens to energy is that it transmutes, it transfers to something else. So the whole idea is that if you have something that's made of energy, it's going to change to something else. Great example would be if you have a block of ice, and you can say that's just like a solid block of ice. You basically put heat to it, or you let it sit outside in 90-degree weather, it will melt into a liquid. So it's not going to destroy itself. It's not being eliminated. It's just moving into a liquid. Now that liquid is sitting out there and the sun keeps hitting it, it eventually turns into a gas. Now the difference, and this is why we look at spirits as being important. People don't see the gas. Doesn't mean it's not there, which is the whole key to this, but it means that it's just transferred to something else. So you can argue that when we pass away, our soul's going somewhere else, all right? So everything is changing. Our whole world changes, we change around the world. The key to what we're talking about here is taking this energy that God has given us, our Creator has given us, and using that energy to do great things in the world through God's purposes. And that starts with the whole idea of using and harnessing all that sexual energy you have. Because of the way men are and the purpose men have, we've been endowed with tremendous sexual energy. And God has given to us, right? It is a strength that we have as males. Females have it in a different way, but females are the ones who are producing the children, but they need the male semen and sperm to be able to do that. So to do that, we have tremendous amount of energy, right? This is why people and even animals who are not fixed run like wild dogs and animals and cats and things like that. Now they become more docile because they get fixed, and all of a sudden now they're using that energy in different ways. But the thing is that if untamed, you could really kind of almost destroy yourself with that sexual energy. And that's what ends up happening with a lot of people. They become degenerate eventually. They suck them energy out. They go around like crazy, like a chicken without a head, running around, looking for something to use their energy with. And for the most part, when we're in our teens and 20s, most men, and even into their 30s and 40s, use that energy to chase women. And they get into all these corrupt, negative, self-abusing behaviors because they're chasing women. I went into a trap for many, many years. So I know kind of what I'm talking about with this. You get into a trap, and all of a sudden you think this is the purpose of what you're doing. It wasn't until I kind of became more enlightened and knowledge to understand that the key really is not following what the world is saying about releasing all the time. In fact, let's talk about that for a second. The reason why people are in this mode of thinking that you have to release all the time, one of the reasons at least, is because society's telling us that all of our sexual types of things that we deal with are muscles. And obviously you have to use your muscle or else it gets atrophied. This is the fear tactic people put out there. But in fact, that if you look at the real biology of this, it's not really muscles we're talking about. We're talking about glands, sexual glands. And those are things that actually can stay with you. There's been a lot of studies, in the NIDA experiment I talked about briefly before has talked about this, that when people did copulate, and the difference is when they're held on to their semen is that their glands never changed. Their organs never really changed all that much, and they weren't degenerate. Now, when people release all the time, especially the pictures and things like that, they're releasing. And they're not becoming as strong, and what's happening to them is that they're functioning, they're losing their function, and they become more degenerate. And so when you lose your sexual glands, that's when your health goes down, in my opinion. Now, this is my opinion. Now, there's probably scientific research out there. I think someone mentioned in one of the responses that there's a good relationship between death and releasing all the time, you know. And there probably is a tremendous one with this, because you could see this. Person's losing their energy, and they're throwing it out there except for procreation, and they're not transmuting it through their system. Well, of course they're going to go ahead and become less of a man or a woman. And this is what happens. They become degenerate. And you can see all the past, research on, people, mental illness and depression and anxiety. And it wouldn't surprise me, a lot of that goes back to the loss of sexual, energy and the degeneration of your glands and all those things that you have to be able to focus on doing the things you need to do to go ahead and be stronger in achieving your goals, and use that knowledge and using that energy to really accomplish great things. And so when we talk about what transmuting and transmuting and transferring information, what we're talking about is focusing on getting that information and using it to achieve things, to actually achieve goals, to help the world, to accomplish God's purposes. And this is a crucial type of thing we're talking about, because as you focus on this energy, you're either going to do something with it. You're either going to sit there and let it sit there and do nothing with it, and that's just as bad. So even a person who can practice semen retention, they may not be using it because they don't know how to transmute. They may just be sitting there and they're getting frustrated, and then that's a frustration that could lead to releasing again. A lot of what people want to do is release because they have so much stress, so much anxiety with things going on in the world, and they're not grounded in that idea of retention and being able to say, okay, the worst thing you do is release. The best thing you do is kind of transmute that energy, and you're going to feel less stress and less anxiety. No, they're going to release. And obviously, being promoted by society, when people tell you it's great to release and you're healthier if you release and all those type of things that people tell you, then you're going to believe that. But if you just think about it logically, anytime you have something that's powerful that you can have a child with by releasing, then what are you doing? Killing yourself, essentially, draining yourself dry by getting information. Now, by giving out that energy to other people, or pictures or whatever you're doing, right, with it. Now, the other thing is that if you think that it's just going to continue going and going and going, then it's almost like an unending stream that you have no matter how old you are. I can tell you at 63 years old today that it is not unending. You're eventually going to pay the price. And this is what I see. You see a lot of people walking around. You can see that they've had a rough life. And part of having a rough life is obviously a rough sexual life. And basically releasing all the time for whatever method it is. And you don't want to do that. So when you see people that are more healthier, they probably have refrained from having a lot of sexual activities, and even the masturbation and things that we talk about have probably been minimum for those people, or at least to the point where it's not an addictive type of thing. Those people probably have been able to control that, not realize what they've been doing, but they've been able to transmute it. All right, so when we talk about how to do this, this is the other component of this. What does it mean? We know what it means is trying to use that information, that energy, and transmute that energy to around your whole body. A couple things you could do. One is you're transmuting it to accomplish things, working on things that you're going to get better with, goals, whether it's weightlifting, which is what I did this morning, or swimming like I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings at 5:30, or working on something else to build your body up, or it's intellectually building your mind up like I was teaching this morning, or also spiritually meditating, working on meditation, working on, talking to God, those type of things. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is regeneration. You can imagine yourself going ahead and focusing on regenerating this energy you have and getting it through the system. So now it's going to take care of your whole system. So there's several things I would recommend when it comes to transmuting. One of which is to keep as busy as possible. Okay, so as you are feeling excited about something, like we all will, it's a common subconscious reaction, and there's a reason for that, because you want to get ready for procreation, right? So you're going to have times that's going to hit you, and you're going to see a beautiful woman, and you're going to get excited. So what do? Well, the first thing you do is keep yourself busy. Go work out, okay? Go out and run, okay? Do something that you're actually going ahead and focusing on activity. Once you focus on activity, then by nature, part of that energy you have is going to be focusing on this new activity, because something's got to be able to help you run that activity, right? So whether it's running, whether it's doing something in work, whether it's something busy, keep busy. The more you keep busy, the more your energy is going to shift to those areas you need to. The second thing is it's going to keep your mind off of the releasing. It's the key, my friends, is that everything starts up here. Everything starts up here. If you can control those thoughts to the point where you're getting busy, getting it focused out of normal activity thinking, you got a chance to do long-term type streaking. And that's what I'm doing right now. The idea is that you want to create a situation where you're building a different habit. You went into this situation, as I did, forming bad habits. Forming bad habits like doing things late at night, forming bad habits of going around, looking at the internet, looking at your phone, going to bars, all kinds of stuff. Avoid those things. Stay away from those things and form a good habit of finding constructive things to put in there in that time frame, and get away from then thinking about all these things that cause you trouble. Except for maybe sporting events or looking at other like research on retention and things like that, I stay away from the computer. I stay away. No, I use it for work, but I stay away from focusing all day on those things. Those are healthy types of things to do. Get away from those things. Get your mind on thinking about positive things you're doing on activities. The more activities you do, the less chance you're going to be sitting around being bored and not going ahead and then releasing on top of that. Also avoid, obviously, late night types of things. I also try to end up putting my computer and phone in a different room. I find I sleep much better, and I don't have that inclination to think about any of that kind of stuff. And so as time goes on, you build a habit. It says about 21 days. You know, I could probably substantiate maybe a little bit longer than in some cases, but depends on how strong that habit was before. And we always go back to this, guys. There's some people talking about they're still not seeing a lot of healing types of things. Well, sometimes it takes time. Each person is different. It also depends on how long you were in this stage. You know, for me, it took 3 years almost to see any kind of real benefits that I'm seeing now. You know, you go back to my earlier videos, you can see a big difference, you know, in even my face and everything else, because it took a lot of years to get all that crap out of the system. So now you have more pure type system. And that's what we're talking about, gang. We're talking about a pure body. God gave you as a temple, and you should be using it as a temple. Most of us, however, because of society, because of the way things are, we destroy our bodies. We don't use it as a temple. We kind of just abuse it all the time in many ways, whether it's drinking, whether it's sex, whether it's, you know, overeating, things like that. We don't take care of our bodies. And so, you know, why should God allow us to take care of her? You know, why should he feel all the things happening and positive if we're not taking care of our bodies? So there's other things you can do. Obviously, Kellner's book is number 6, right, which is good. You're sitting there. If you feel like there's some excitement going on, some arousal, stand up, put your hands on your hip, breathe up, and almost like you're bringing that in, all that energy from the area, one of the chakras down there, reproductive chakra, and you're bringing it up. You're bringing it up into the rest of your body. You can also visualize this and see this in the mind, because your mind's very important here. In the mind, so it's now coming up, and all of a sudden now you're seeing that all this energy is healing you. And think about that. When you're sleeping, the same thing happens. I mean, I know a lot of you young guys focusing on, you know, having wet dreams and things like that. Those things happen. You don't expect your body to just give in to this, right? If there was a pattern for so many years of this, don't be surprised if it continues to go back and your body's pushing you on this. Don't be surprised you release and things like that. But don't get disheartened. Continue to plan. If you go to sleep, keep focusing on goals and ideas of things you want to accomplish. Do not start thinking about women. Think about other things. And that's going to help you then overcome the mind part of this type of deal. The other thing you could do, and there's some exercise this, you can kind of put your thumb in your nose Breathe in, hold it, move it to the other side, or you can probably use both if you wanted to. And then breathe up, and then breathe out of your mouth. And that whole thing, what happens is your oxygen goes to your brain. And now first you're not thinking about that woman anymore. And the other thing you're doing is you're relaxing your body through deep breathing. And this is why meditation is important. Deep breathing type of thing to be able to help overcome that arousal and now use that energy and transmute that to something else. So there's lots of ways you can do this. I think the key is in your mind first thinking that you're going to go ahead and transmute all your energy into positive things that are going to accomplish goals for yourself. Women should be last on your list. And don't get me wrong, I love women. Women are great, wonderful companions. Everything is great with women. Women do a lot for this world. They are great contributors, as men are, to the world. But many men's issue that we have in our society, I know that's not grammatically correct, but many men, the major issue they have is they have no life. They focus their lives on women. And you cannot do that. Men are not, in my mind, men were not built to do that. Men should be leaders, right? There should be always a give and take in relationships. Men should not be thirsty for just because they want sex. That destroys men, especially when it comes to pornography and all these other kind of things. So it's been my life goal now to help as many people as I can to try to overcome this major, I think it's an epidemic in our society. And why is it an epidemic? Well, there's people who want to profit, of course, on these things. Control people, make a profit on people, and why not set up situations where this stuff is easy accessible? Just think to yourself, you know, you can get pornography free on the internet. That tells you all you need to know right there, right? Something free? Well, of course, there's always a tag to this kind of stuff. And a lot of it is destroying your glands, your sexual glands in the long run. And you don't want to do that at any price. I mean, it may feel good for a temporary period of time, but overall, it destroys you. And of course, we're not even talking about diseases and things like that, which is also a huge killer when it comes to actual interaction with women. When people talk about these body counts, they're just looking to destroy themselves. They don't see that. Obviously, they don't understand that. But it's almost like that gas. They don't see all this stuff happening. That's why we're talking about a 1% club. We're not talking about a 50% club, right? We're talking about only 1% of people understand this. We've been blessed, and it took me a lot of years to be blessed, but we've been blessed with this whole idea that what you have to do, the biggest enemy you have is yourself. Self-control is very important. So, all right, my friends. Well, I hope this one helped. Like I said, I always enjoy talking with you, and you know, being 63 today always makes me reflect on what is great and what God has given me as personally. And I want to thank you guys for all your, you know, participation and help. And whether it's positive comments, negative comments, it's always good to kind of see where we're at and how much more we can help people. In the long run, the key is for us as a society under God to become better and better. We're heading in the wrong direction, and the reason I say this is because, you know, you see, you know, all these dynasties that I've studied over the years, I've had the same plans, you know, the same trajectory. I mean, they start off great because they're building and they're trusting each other, and they're not having a lot of problems with values, and they're practicing a lot of, you know, semen retention and celibacy and brahmacharya because they want to help each other, and they're all working together. At some point, some generations, a couple of generations later, they've lost sight of all of that. And now you're heading in the direction of people looking at lascivious behaviors, selfish behaviors, focusing just on themselves. And all of a sudden, you know, now they're focusing on self-abuse, destroying themselves because they can, because they don't have the problem of, you know, not having anything to eat or not having any kind of home, and they don't have to do any of that. And a lot of people get spoiled. And if they get spoiled, they go to all these behaviors that become self-destructive. And so eventually, this society, just like all the other dynasties, will fall and, you know, be built, hopefully, like in England. A lot of it's still around, but, you know, you never know. Because you never know what happens. You know what happens with Sodom and Gomorrah. You know what happened with Babylon and the Roman Empire. They get destroyed from within. And there's no reason why that still can't happen here unless we every day are diligent in trying to make sure that we keep, keep on the right path, get away from the temptation, and staying away from all those tempting things that we talk about. And one of those ways to do that is to make sure we focus on the proper breathing, the activities, to actually be able to get us to transmute things better. And energy is the key. All right, my friends, enough of that. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And as always, I want to say two things. One, every day is a great day to warriors such as yourselves, everyone out there who practices this stuff, has a deep understanding of this, and I appreciate that a great deal. And the second one, we're always trying to battle that devil. Every day we have to battle this devil. And because of that, I always ring out that clarion call that we have to continue to battle on! Have a great day, my friends. God bless each and every one of you guys.